Oh, it's just you. What? No, I'm not hiding under the covers from anything. I'm under here because I'm trying to get really cozy. Yeah. And what show says cozy more than Adventure Time, a modern classic?
Adventure Time premiered in 2010 as a new sci-fi, fantasy, comedy, action-adventure series about a plucky kid named Finn and his magical shape-shifting dog Jake as they go on adventures, slay evil monsters, and save princesses in the far-out land of Ooh. The show stood out for its iconic characters, childlike sense of fun, and colorful world, and is often credited as reviving animation in the 2010s. For the first third of the show's run, the episodes' plots were relatively simple, but in later parts of the show, it became more complicated, with many episodes that carry strong continuity and even 3 dedicated 8-part miniseries with overarching narratives. And likewise, the more goofy, adventurous tone of the early seasons was traded out for a more artsy and serene tone, with many episodes where there was no big bad to fight, and instead it was just quiet. All in all, Adventure Time is a very intriguing case to study, so I think it's high time I counted down my top 10 favorite episodes of the series. And to inject this list with a bit of variety, I'll only be covering 1 episode per season, which conveniently there are 10 of. And if you're worried about spoilers, then stop watching. But I also have timestamps in the description. Alright, this introduction has run its course. So come on, grab your friends as we go on an adventure to find out which episodes are the most
Oh my gosh.
Finn, why are you fighting with your friend Jake? You know, this can be the end. Romance or action does not matter. Hurting your friend will make you sadder. Guys, you know you're much more than this. You two, please stop or you're undue. All that you've been through.
Over the course of Adventure Time's 10-season run, my least favorite season has gotta be Season 4. This was the season that Finn started dating Flame Princess, and so a handful of episodes were dedicated to this awkward teen romance, which is what initially turned me away from the show back in the day. As 10-year-old me put it, less romance, more adventuring. This isn't romance time. And so this season, I naturally gravitated towards the episodes where the characters are actually going out on a real adventure, even if sometimes it would still get a little saucy.
What if you got 8? Think about it, all alone in a stomach full of acid. Mommy! Mommy, help me! Billy, is that you? Mommy, you sound exactly like me. Mommy, you sound exactly like me! Billy, Anyway.
Starting things off, we have the Hard Easy, Adventure Time's 100th episode. Wait, is it? Bah, technicalities. In this episode, Finn and Jake are just chilling out in the local swamp during the rain when they're approached by a shy mud scamp who brings them to the village of mud scamps. And it is there that the elder mud scamp tells the two about how their town and their people are under siege by the Mega Frog. So now Finn and Jake must venture into the autumn marsh to track down the gargantuan amphibian and chop off its head or something. The environment in this episode really stands out. The rain and the swamp that Finn and Jake find themselves in really feels like a piece of wilderness. Damp ground, misty air, brisk breeze and all. It makes me feel all extra nice to be here in my warm bed. Yeah man, just lying here where nothing can go wrong. It has a real unique feel, as 2 other forest settings in the show look quite like this, and Finn and Jake usually stay inside during the rain. But here, you've got damp mud pathways, moss-covered logs, thick, endless canopies, overgrown trees. Wait, that's not a tree. That looks like some kind of busted locomotive or domicile with broken windows and everything. The world of Adventure Time is filled with junk like that to enforce the post-apocalyptic setting, with a lot of garbage and litter that no one ever cleaned up just blending into the scenery like this. Finn and Jake spend the majority of the episode on the hunt, and they don't actually encounter the Mega Frog until around 8 minutes in. Until then, the 2 of them spend their time just roughing it out in the woods, running around, getting lost, setting up camp, getting all bruised and dirty and struck by lightning, you know. It feels like an adventure an actual kid would have, just going into the woods past the backyard during rainy weather, not caring how dirty or wet you get until you turn home and your parents tell you to take a shower. Eventually, Finn and Jake happen to come face to face with the Mega Frog, who chases them into the nearby cave. Oh my god, the Mega Frog. This thing is simultaneously so hilarious and derpy looking while also being genuinely creep-tastic. Ooh, disgusting. And then in a truly wild turn of events, during the fight with the Mega Frog puts his juicy frog lips on Jake, and so Finn puts his juicy human lips on the frog, which turns it back into a prince.
Ah, this is rad! I'm hot again!
Here's some trivia. The prince is voiced by Brian Doyle Murray, the voice of Captain Knuckles from The Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack, which many of Adventure Time staff previously worked on. And likewise, the voice actors for Bubby and Flapjack also make cameos in other Adventure Time episodes.
Catnip! Sweet babies!
You're messing up the tree and I totally live here! You're a bad guy!
Whether this be an intentional reference or not, it's still a pretty neat homage, like a return to the show's roots of adventure. Truly magical.
Please stop, or you'll undo all that you've been through. Ooh.
No show would be complete without a great cast of characters, and Adventure Time is no exception. There are so many standouts like Finn, Jake, the Ice King, Beemo, Princess Bubblegum, Betty, the King of Ooh, Raggedy Princess, Uncle Gumbald, Maja the Sky Witch, Billy! Peppermint Butler, Fern, Jermaine, Magic Man, Lady Rainicorn, Charlie, Kim Kilwan, Warren Ampersand, Lumpy Space Princess, that guy, the other guy, a booger, and Orgalord. Such an excellent cast of all-stars. And of course my favorite character is... none of the above. It's Marceline, the Vampire Queen. Half demon, half vampire, half third thing. Aw, yeah. The episodes with Marceline always stand out as some of the best in the show, usually because they get to stretch her music cred. Some episodes won't even feature Marceline as part of the main plot, but put her in regardless so she can do a song anyway. And I do love Marceline's music. They're the kind of songs that make you want to sing along and even freestyle your own words. And this episode is the most iconic musical appearance of her you ever heard.
Daddy, why did you eat my fries? I bought them and they were mine. But you ate them, yeah, you ate my fries. And I cried, but you didn't see me cry.
What do we have here? Why, it came from the Nightosphere, the Season 2 premiere, where we meet Marceline's dad, Hunson Abadir, who's top tier in fear. One night, Marceline is having a fresh music sesh with Finn, but then she lets him in on a story about her dad and the bad blood they had over Mad Spuds. So Finn starts to say, "That's cray, I'm gonna open a doorway and say hey to Padre and lay your problems out from here to Pompey, okay?" So Abadir appears, says, "Marcy, it's so nice to see you," but all Marcy can say is,
Finn, what the heck did you do?
so Hunson says too, "Fine, I'll shoo, me tell him Moku, a Konkulapu, Pima'u." He nabs Marcy's face and clocks someone's face. He steals people's souls, leaving nary a trace. Marcy and Finn pick up the pace and give chase and make a bunch of mistakes that they try to erase. Space, where'd I put my case for my base? I have trouble drawing, so I trace. Taste pretty based. Ah, what got into me? What am I, Choose Goose after signing a truce with the Spruce Moose? Anyway, Marceline's dad is now on the loose, and it's up to Finn to track him down and send him back to the Nightosphere before he sucks too much. Meanwhile, Marceline kinda doesn't give a shit and just wants her axe bass guitar back, and to a lesser extent, her father's approval. There are plenty of scenes where Marcy and Abadi go knee to knee, but the highlights of this episode are when Hunson is just by himself. The man is so disturbingly wacky, he contorts his body in a way that is both very unsettling and eccentrically funny and full of swagger. This guy, and by extension this episode, is just a goldmine of excellent quotes and great jokes.
Huh? Who the fluff are you?
Well, I'm sure not the guy who's gonna suck out your soul.
Good, because that's like my #1 fear.
Look, just stay out of my life!
You're not even alive! Of all history's greatest monsters, you are by far the most evil thing I've encountered. Offer your soul to me, Dark One.
Quack.
No! You can't have my soul! I don't even... Look, just get in here. Keep your crummy soul.
In the climax, Marceline's dad sucks up so many souls that he grows to an enormous size, able to snag souls from the horizon. After Finn tries to fight him anyway, Hunson opens his base sack, Marceline gets her base back, and the two of them start to backtrack and fall back. And Finn's like, whack! Gotta open my backpack, crack a plan of attack, and the snack track!
Daddy, why did you eat my fries? I bought them and they were mine.
So Marceline's dad and Marceline's dad's daughter have a heart-to-heart over her upstart art, but then Finn comes in and splits Papa's skin as he lets out a shriek and opens a portal with expert technique. He tells Hunson Abadir,
I'll see you in the Nightosphere, you sick freak.
it's saddening, it's maddening, and I'm rapping, and it's just a good old fun nighttime adventure complete with demons, dames, and dialogues.
I've been meaning to ask you, what's with that pocket on your shirt?
Oh, Jake's in here. Sup, Jake?
Please stop, or you'll undo all that you've been through. Ooh.
Peace, Master!
See? See what happens when you mess with the dark arts? I'll get you, Dark One! You wrecked Peacemaster's minivan!
The Hard, Easy, and It Came from the Nightosphere are both really funny episodes, but when it comes to which episode I think is the funniest in the series, my mind immediately goes to Nemesis from Season 6. Instead of centering around Finn or Jake, this episode focuses on a new character, Peacemaster, a vigilante on a righteous crusade to purge the world of demonic evil. The episode starts in the Candy Kingdom with a candy person attending a secret meeting, and it starts off normal until, oh shit, Peacemaster's here, who immediately pronounces the presence of a dark force lurking in the Candy Kingdom. It's a very comical contrast seeing the serious witch hunter looking dude alongside the cuddly candy folks talking about how he's gonna smite some demons. And then just when you think Peacemaster's all gruff stuff, he jumps out of the window, starts running around while singing his iconic theme song, and then meets up with his 3 kids in his car! He's a sucker dad! Quite the juxtaposition from when he was talking the big talk in the meeting room. It is endlessly funny how he's made to look all intimidating and whatnot to give off the feel of a serious, evil-hating hero, but then it's revealed that he's actually just a big ol' softie. And to that effect, Peacemaster's design is really great. He kinda looks like Ron James!
I've definitely been paranoid, and the things I've worried about are ridiculous and absurd, and when I sober up, I recognize that. But a lot of times, some of the stuff I'm shown on a heavy dose of marijuana, I come out of that knowing, shit, man, I've got to work on this. Why am I not exercising? I need to exercise more. This is ridiculous. Yeah. I'm drinking a little too much right now. I need to slow down drinking.
Anyway, the real plot of the episode involves Peppermint Butler, who is actually the dark entity the Peacemaster was talking about, since Peps is a master occultist and dark wizard, unbeknownst to the princess and the people. He's practically the opposite of Peacemaster in every way. Pep looks friendly, acts friendly, and is friendly with his peers, despite being a semi-evil dark lord. Meanwhile, Peacemaster is a champion of justice, only he looks scary, acts scary, and is ironically seen as a villain by the other characters. Truly, he is the perfect nemesis. Anyway, after catching wind of his declaration of justice, Pep uses the dark arts to launch a surprise attack on Peacemaster, but is caught off guard and outmatched by Peacemaster's arsenal of charms, allowing him to reveal Pep as the dark entity.
Look here, friends. The beast lies exposed.
And befitting the theme of appearances and facades, the other candy people don't really believe what they see. Even without dark magic, Pep tries to fight back, but just gets completely owned by Peacemaster, and if the other candy people hadn't intervened, he would have died. It just goes to show that you can be as righteous as you want, but if no one's on your side, then your whole message means squat. Afterwards, Peacemaster and Peps meet for an official duel at the Wizard Battle Stadium, and at first you think they're about to square off properly this time, using the full extent of their respective abilities, but then, hilariously, Peps instead just reveals that he has Peacemaster's kids. He turns the first one into a monster and threatens to morph the other 2 as well if Peacemaster doesn't back off. But it's fine, the kids are totally okay with it.
Whoa, sweet!
No! Alright. Okay. Alright, you win.
One more thing. Show us your underwear.
It amuses me that this little rivalry just ends in an anticlimax. After the first encounter, Peps knew he couldn't take Peacemaster in a fight, so he just blackmailed him instead. And Peacemaster falls from being the menacing, albeit heroic antagonist to just a well of sympathy. And better yet, his kids are in on it. They think this is all very funny. They're laughing. Peacemaster would eat dirt for his children, and they're laughing.
Okay, stop. I took it too far.
This episode is all about subverting expectations for comedic effect, and in my opinion makes for some of the best comedy in the series. So anyway, lesson learned, next time just take them to the Ding Dang Dark Arts Fair.
Please stop, or you'll undo all that you've been through.
You know, for a series that is not explicitly about dreams, Adventure Time sure explores the concept a lot. You've got prophetic dreams, croak dreams, hypnotic dreams, shared dreams, daydreams, fantasies, out-of-body experiences, nightmares, and more. And this next episode features none of the above. It's Marceline, the vampire wait, what?
I'm a buff baby that can dance like a man. I can shake a my fanny, I can shake a my can. I'm a tough tootin' baby, I can punch at your buns. Punch at your buns, I can punch all your buns. If you're an evil witch, I will punch you for fun.
Hey, there you are.
You know how when you're young you decide what your favorite thing is and it just sticks with you? Well, that's what happened with Memory of a Memory, which once upon a time was my favorite episode of the series. But then again, this was early season 3, so there was still a lot of show left when I first saw it. Regardless, this episode centers around Finn and Jake exploring Marceline's mind to track down a specific memory in order to wake her up, with the help of her
spirit animal.
Yeah. Oh yeah, a dreamscape episode, where the environment is not just one story the dreamer is experiencing, but the whole of their subconscious mind. Moonlight. We see Marcy as a little girl, as an adult just chilling out at home. We see her moving in with her boyfriend Ash, and then subsequently breaking up with said boyfriend. We even get to see that scene.
Yo, man.
What?
Don't eat those.
Marceline!
Daddy, why?
Some memories are normal, but others are sideways, or tiny, or gigantic, and the sequence ends with this high-contrast black and white section, which is where the required memory is. So after nabbing the memory, Finn and Jake wake up, and Marcy's animal buddy is revealed to actually be Ash, Marceline's ex-boyfriend. Plus, it's revealed that the memory that Finn and Jake retrieved was actually the memory of the two of them breaking up. Well, no more of that, so the two of them are back together and they fly off, with Finn and Jake giving chase. Although, hold up a sec, Ash and Marceline are shown to have been together since before Finn and Jake lived in their iconic treehouse, and Finn is like 13 at current. So what's the deal with that? Marceline's known Ash for over a decade. Either that's a long time to remain in the dating stage, or that's a long time to be plotting to get back together. And another thing, what is the deal with Ash's house? It looks like he conjured it from the earth or something, so there's just another house on top of his house, complete with a lawn, a walkway, and a fridge. And geez, probably because of that, this place is all slanted. It looks like it's gonna fall apart. Ash, what are you doing?
You're not a genius. You're not a genius.
I will say that this episode was initially my favorite because it is very funny. Ash has all the best lines. He's so unself-aware and it leads to some prime comedic material. My favorite line is after Finn restores Marceline's memory and Ash shows up demanding a turkey sandwich with a tomato. Poor Marceline. First her dad eats her fries, then her boyfriend tells her lies. Finally fed up with people eating her food, she connects her foot into the head of that dude.
Oh my! Oh, not! I can't see. Don't call my mom.
Please stop, or you're undue. All that you've been through.
Oh yeah, now we're getting into that good nooch.
Jermaine?
Ah, mountain colors. I'm painting this mountain. I think it's really coming together.
That's the mountain?
Yep. I'm a mirror.
Abstract, the epilogue to the Elements miniseries. During Elements, the entirety of it was corrupted into taking the form of either fire, ice, candy, or slime, and at the end, the entire continent was reset, turning everyone back to normal. However, just as everyone was reset back to default, so was Jake, who now looked like a weird alien, which is where this episode picks up. Everyone is put off by Jake's new look, but being the mellow Jake we all know and love, he thinks it's no big deal. Well, at first. Partway through, Jake has a dream that holds some sort of significance. As Jake himself once said,
Dream stuff always means something.
So with that in mind, let's analyze this frame. We've got cows, birds, chameleons, tacos, carrots. I have no idea what I'm looking at. Throughout the dream, Jake sees figments of the monster which he now resembles. There's a clever bit where it appears, Jake closes his eyes, and then when he opens them again, in the monster's place is his father, Joshua, which cleverly foreshadows the events of Jake the Star Child, where it's revealed that the monster, Warren Ampersand, is also Jake's father. At the tail end of the dream, he runs into his twin brother Jermaine, and these two invade each other's dreams all the time, so he knows it's the real deal. I like Jermaine. He's like regular Giuseppe, the third Mario brother who pays taxes and orders Domino's pizza.
Hey, I've got pizza. Special delivery for Malcolm.
Oh, what's that me? But I'll take it anyway. That's not my front door. How'd you even get in?
Back in Orb, the Season 9 opener, it was established that Jermaine had become a landscape painter, but here, Jake sees him painting abstract art, and finds it difficult to believe that Jermaine would change his style and decides to visit him to find out what's up. The irony is that just like how a bunch of characters were put off by Jake's new look, Jake himself is resistant to the way Jermaine is changed, too. Only Jake doesn't see this contradiction because he only looks different, meanwhile it's Jermaine's behavior that's seemingly changed.
That sounds like denial.
No, it doesn't.
This is an episode that really rewards knowing the continuity. Of course, there are the obvious connections like Orb, Elements, and Jake the Star Child, but there's also Cherry Cream Soda, James 2, Jermaine, and Joshua and Margaret Investigations. Derpier Guy and the Jameses coming back feel like random references at first, until you realize they're both characters that were once one way, and then became another way later in the series. By Jake's logic, he's no different because, I mean, heck, James turned into a weird amalgam of 20-ish clones of himself, and he's still the same. Ever since he was one James, always the same. Couldn't keep his hands out of the metal drawer, but not our James. Couldn't be Precious James, stealing them blind. And he gets to guard the Badlands? What a sick joke. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, then there's Jermaine. Just like Root Beer Guy and James and Jake changed, so did Jermaine, as he let all his responsibilities literally burn away and take up art, arguably a much bigger change than mixing up his style. But the point being made here is that whether he's painting abstract art or landscapes or nothing at all, he's still the same Jermaine at the end of the day.
This looks bad, but deep down, I'm not different. And you're not different either, right? You'll go back to painting landscapes?
No one is making me do this. I painted so many landscapes that the shapes of the land began to lose their meaning. And the shapes broke apart to me, so I painted them like that. And it's not like my new paintings erase my old paintings. They're both me.
However, despite that, you can't just go through life pretending that being yourself means you don't ever change. That's what Jake is trying to learn. The moral ends up being that both are true. People change and stay the same, which fittingly is a bit of an abstract concept in and of itself. Abstract is an episode that lives up to its name. The ideas it brings up and the possibilities it presents are so interesting that it could spark hours of discussion.
The shapes are always changing. Changing is their normal state, like us. Even if we're not changing on the outside, we're changing on the inside constantly. There's some stuff about me that I've been ignoring for a long time. I'm afraid of that stuff. But it's part of who I am. As long as I know the shape of my soul, I'll be all right.
Wow. You really understand my art.
Oh, I totally don't understand anything.
Good old adventure time, you know? I'm actually feeling pretty good. I don't even remember what was bothering me before.
Hey, come on, let me in already.
Oh, yeah.
Come on, son, just
What,
let me in
son?
so I can give you your birthday cake.
My birthday was weeks ago.
Please stop, or you're undue. All that you've been through.
I'm not scared. It's very comfortable under here. You know, you ever wish you could just leave reality? Just leave all the scary parts behind and get comfortable in a fantasy for a while?
Come on, son, I've got plushies and toys, all sorts of things that kids like.
Of course, a straightforward way to escape reality is through dreams and just surrendering your mind to the wilds of unconscious thought. But you know what they say about letting your mind wander, sometimes it doesn't come back.
Being crazy is hard. You're getting all hung up on imaginary problems. You gotta focus on what's real, man.
Comfort ahoy, it's Pohoy! I can feel the coziness consuming me! In this episode, Finn is bummed out over a weak interaction he had with Flame Princess, so he retreats into a massive pillow fort built by Jake, only to find himself trapped in an odd pillow world. This place is one of the most fascinating set pieces in the entire show. The people are pillows that wear blankets and quilts as clothing and live in pillow forts of their own. The walls, floors, sky, etc. are stitched and woven in some way, and even drop under the weight of the characters. The land is an endless swath of swatches. There are pillow birds and pillow sheep and a pillow dragon that Finn gets to slay. Pillow this, pillow that, this world is detailed and imaginative. Almost every single location in this place feels like a spot where you can lie down, get comfy, and just chillax. The episode is broken up into sections, alternating between Finn and Pillow World and Jake and Beemo back in the treehouse. The best part about the treehouse portion is that there's a Simo for a moment. Cute. Where did that come from? Who cares? Wonderful. Oh my. Wow. Hey guys, remember Simo? Good times. Finn's story centers around the search for the mysterious door that he entered from, which disappeared the moment he arrived, stranding him in Pillow World. And every time we cut back to Finn, he's a lot older. In the first segment, Finn meets Rosalind, daughter of Quilton, and they kinda hit it off. Then next time we see Finn, he's a man, with 2 kids and Rosalind as his wife. Third time, Finn is an older man, and both his kids are adults now. Then finally, the 4th time we see Finn, he's on his deathbed, near the end of his life. And as Finn gets older, his design evolves alongside him. When Finn is an adult, his clothes no longer fit him, so he ties his shirt into a sash and his pants into a kilt. And his backpack, which he usually sheaths his sword into, is also too small, so he now has a proper pillow sheath. Then when Finn is old, to show just how much he's adapted to his new pillow life, nearly his entire wardrobe is quilted, from his shirt to his new backpack. And furthermore, his arm is missing, being replaced with a pillow prosthetic, keeping up with the consistent continuity that Finn always loses his right arm somehow.
And at this point, I'm sitting here like, goodbye, right arm.
term. Adult Finn's design shows how Finn still tries to hold on to his old life as he continues to wear the clothes he came here with and no longer fit him. Meanwhile, old Finn's design shows how he's accepting this new reality, becoming more comfortable in the world he's found himself in. After talking to the Pillow Oracle, Finn believes that he's finally found the location of the door back, as the Oracle's words imply that the door does exist and can be found, but whether or not Finn actually still wants to leave by this point is the true hurdle. And I think the dilemma that Finn faces here is incredibly interesting. Before Finn enters the Pillow Fort, Jake tells him that festering is always bad and nothing good can come from it. Then, after Finn talks with the Oracle, he says that he needs to fester on his words to figure out what they mean, to subtly call back to the beginning of the episode and thus imply that Finn's thinking is misguided.
Oh, Finn. I know you have to go. All these years I've known. But now that it's time... Oh, man. I'm just all messed up about it. Just promise me you'll remember us when you're back in your real life.
And so Finn realizes that if he found the door, it wouldn't actually take him home because this is his home now. It's like a lesson on the sunk cost fallacy. All Finn wanted was to find the door and go back to his world, but he'd been on that journey for what turned into most of his life. Not wanting to waste the time he'd spent searching, he was still determined to find the door, but then it's his wife that makes him realize his search has caused him to neglect his family in pursuit of his somewhat selfish goal.
You're getting all hung up on imaginary problems. Stay with your new wife. You've known her longer now than any of us. You're not even sure I ever really existed. And I'm pretty sure I didn't look like this.
Man, how did he see it all coming so clearly?
Come on, everyone, pack your things. We're going home.
After Finn croaks while on his deathbed, he finds himself thrown towards the Maw of Gold, but dodges it. He then emerges from the Pillow Fort, for it would appear that the entire journey was just a whack dream. Sounds like a bit of a cop-out, but I think there is merit to it. First of all, I find it very creative to have a dream world where everything is made of bedding. It just makes sense. Also, at the start of the episode, it's shown that it's the middle of a knife storm, which is a callback to the episode Rainy Day Daydream, which is all about the characters using their imagination to form the plot, and then their imagination getting out of control, not unlike what happens here. Oh yeah, and it also explains how Finn had kids and didn't starve to death, plus it's a convenient excuse for Finn to not be old/dead anymore, which is the lazy part. What's not, though, is that after Finn emerges from the fort, he's about to tell Jake and Beemo about the wild dream he just had when he gets a call from Flame Princess, which gets him out of his funk, but also, because he lost his focus, he forgets the dream entirely. He forgets his wife Rosalind, and his father-in-law Quilton, his kids Jay and Bonnie, all the people he met, gone. They never existed to begin with, but by Finn forgetting about them, it's like they now double don't exist, which is almost extra tragic. Ahoy is a story that comes out of nowhere and is never explained or mentioned again, truly much like a real dream, only in this case, one that we'll never forget about.
Come on, your old pop just wants to see you, that's all. Come open the door.
Okay, I know what I said about festering and whatnot, but maybe Finn had the right idea. Let's try going deeper.
What's this? Hmm?
Well, this is, familiar.
Please stop, or you'll undo all that you've been through.
Alright, I think it's finally time to give this episode the credit it deserves.
They're dead! They're actually dead!
Come along with me, the series finale. Strap in, this is gonna be a long one. The episode begins rather unconventionally. Instead of picking up where we left off with Finn and Jake, the episode starts 1,000 years in the future with two new characters, Shermie and Beth. One day in the future, the two of them happen to come across Finn's prosthetic arm and decide to take it to the King of Ooh, who is actually just Beemo, who regales them with the story of the Great Gum War, which is the meat of the episode. You see, just like how the reset of Ooh after Elements rebooted Jake to factory settings, it also reset 3 candy people, who all along were actually Princess Bubblegum's manufactured relatives before getting dumbed down, and serve as the main antagonists of Season 10. And by the finale, they have built a candy kingdom of their own and are ready to go to war. But Finn, oddly enough, doesn't want to go to war, so he and Jake put themselves, Finn's grass doppelganger Fern, PB, and Gumball to sleep in a shared dream in a last-ditch effort to avoid the conflict. Okay, so remember Memory of a Memory? Wow. Hey guys, that was one of the first episodes in the show to explore dreams and mindscapes, and as a result was pretty tame. Now compare that to the finale, where by this point the show's had dozens of trippy dream episodes, and so the world and set pieces the characters encounter this time around are much more out there. Of course, you've got the usual stuff like eyes, just eyes and teeth everywhere, all sorts of wacky stuff coming out of nowhere, and repressed fears, but there is one part in particular that sticks out to me. After entering the shared dream, Gumball and Bonnie split from the group to go at it, mano a mano. This leads to a role reversal between the two characters, where Gumball is the princess and Bonnie is the dumb candy person. As a result, Gumball feels the despair of his kingdom falling apart, which PB has to deal with on a constant basis, and Bubblegum learns what it's like to be the hapless candy person, still hurt deep down, but unable to express herself in any meaningful way, a prison in one's own mind. And strangely enough, this is the part of the episode that feels the most dreamlike. They both witness the kingdom crumble and are both unable to do anything about it, with strikes of that hapless feeling present in a lot of dreams. Clearly, the lesson here is empathy. Fern explicitly says during the episode that he's fighting Finn because Finn doesn't understand him and he doesn't understand Finn. So naturally, it's when that understanding is met that the fighting can cease. And since this whole conflict is largely about war, perhaps there's a deeper meaning to that as well. As they say, know thy enemy, as thou wouldst have them know thine son. So everyone wakes up from the shared dream, Bonnabelle and Gumball reconcile, well, sort of, and the war is over.
Oh, so you meant like the end of the war. I thought you meant like the end of the world.
No. That happened next.
We donked up for real.
In a turn of events that still gives me chills, right when you think the story is over and done, a gateway opens in the sky and from it enters Golb, the god of discord. Yes, the very same Golb that Finn saw during Puhoi. Okay, backstory time. In the two-part Season 3 episode, Holly Jolly Secrets, it was revealed that the Ice King was actually a man named Simon, who lost his mind after he put on the magical crown that he wears throughout the series. Plus, when he lost his mind, his fiancée, Betty, went missing, and he never saw her again in the millennia since. That was because in the aptly titled Season 5 episode, Betty, Simon briefly regains his sanity and creates a portal that Betty uses to travel to the future, the time period of the show. It is there that she vows to find a permanent cure for Simon's condition, which is a journey she stays on for the remainder of the show. At first it sounds like a pretty noble goal, only problem is that Betty is totally lost it too after gaining the abilities of the most powerful wizard in the world, Magic Man. The cruel irony is that she's trying to cure Ice King's magical dementia when she too is wearing a madness-inducing magic hat. And it is this escalating obsession she has with curing Simon of being the Ice King that eventually brought us here, with Golb entering Ooh and Betty trying to harness his power. And God damn Golb is the most terrifying enemy in the entire series. Wait, but I thought you didn't like Golb. I'm over it. When Golb shows up, through the simple act of breathing, he possesses the lot of Gumball's army and raises a monster from their candy flesh. Smokestacks bellow from the creature, and the sky turns dark upon Golb's arrival to symbolize how this new evil seeks to snuff out and suffocate all life in this world. It's a really hopeless situation. The two Gumball Guardians try to engage the thing, with the other side lending a hand as well, but the first Guardian loses its head and the other one suffers a much more gruesome fate.
Help me, Mom. I'm turning nasty.
Princess, we came back to help! Help us, Princess! Ah!
Okay, let's just about the 11th most terrifying thing I've ever seen. The way the second Gumball Guardian is corrupted feels like a call way back to the very first episode, Slumber Party Panic, where Finn had to defend the candy people from a horde of candy zombies. It's that same theme of something sweet being turned into something disgusting, only instead of a horde of candy zombies, it's just two massive ones, and instead of a room of people, it's everyone across the land. Although it does kind of irk me the way the Guardians go down, because when they entered the battle, they were wearing protective headgear, which they then took off when the war was ended. And then, hate to see it, after taking off those helmets, both Guardians suffer head wounds. Wow, well that's just great. Meanwhile, Magic Man, aka Normal Man, aka King Man, Finn, and the Ice King try to stop Betty, and a lot of them minus Normal Man are swallowed by Golb, with no way to escape. Because of how Golb's digestion works, Betty is stripped of her powers and so is Simon, returning them both to their former not-crazy states, and they embrace as they consign themselves to doom. Then back outside, the corrupted Gumball Guardian finally fells the cake, and it's a somber scene as we're shown that everyone else is down and out too. And so with all the heroes down on the ground, there is nothing stopping the monsters from leaving the battlefield and destroying the rest of Ooh. At this point, it really feels like Golb has won. However, for a moment, there's a little hope, as Jake gets up and Hopper soon is all like, bada bing, bada booyah, baby.
This is for you!
Before immediately losing. And the monster rewards his vigor by destroying the treehouse. The treehouse, which has been the final landmark of the show's opening since the start, is now completely decimated, and in its wake is a shattered clock, distinctly showing that it is no longer Adventure Time. But that's when BMO shows up and tries to console Jake, and in BMO's best moment since Video Makers, begins singing Time Adventure, and wow, somehow in the bleakest situation, a ray of hope shines after all, as BMO sings a tender lullaby which is equal parts relieving and somber. The repeated line of will happen, happening, happen depicts the motion of future, present, and past tense, representing the forward flow of time. You see, the shapes are always changing, for changing is their normal state. Like us, the more things change, the more they stay the same, because everything stays. This is the moment that the entire series has been building up to. It's discovered that the harmony of BMO's song hurts Gulp's forces, so PB and Marcy pick up Jake and BMO and tell the rest of the characters to lend their voices to the song. And it feels like such a grand celebration of this world, the stories it's told up until this point, as well as all the different characters and their voice actors too.
It would look like will happen, happening, happen. Will happen, happening, happen. And there we are again and again. 'Cause you and I will always be back then.
Through their harmony, a hole is formed in Gold that allows Finn and the others to escape, only Betty chooses to stay behind after figuring out that the crown that cursed Simon is now reset as well, allowing her the chance to make a wish. Betty's the one who brought Gold into this world, so it's only right that she's the one who takes him out of it. So now, in one final twist of cruel fate, it is Betty who is wearing the crown. And unfortunately, just like how the human known as Simon ceased to be after putting on that crown, as does Betty. For after she makes her wish, she becomes one with Gold. She returns through the portal, thus putting an end to the disaster. Betty got what she wanted. Simon is back to normal, but now she can never be with him. Though I guess you could argue that it was pretty convenient how Gulp's digestive tract just happened to be able to reboot the characters and by extension the crown so Betty could just wish for the problem to go away. And in that sense, you could also say this episode kinda, sorta, ends in Deus Ex Machina. Oh, screw it. This is a finale. These stakes are huge. Gulp is an incredibly menacing and otherworldly antagonist, what with his static pose and unflinching grimace. The finale features some of the most layered and complete story writing in the entire show. Every character gets their time to shine, the song is poignant and full of heart, and best of all, after years of will they won't they discussion, we finally got the epic kissing scene between LSP and Lemongrab. Finally, after so many seasons of build up and foreshadowing, it is here, and it is beautiful. Truly a masterpiece of a closing act.
No knocking. Good.
Please stop, or you're undue. All that you've been through.
Earlier, I talked about how the show is completely different when it started out versus when it ended. It was relatively straightforward and funny for the first 3 seasons, and then from season 4 through season 6, it transitioned and the show we saw in Abstract and the finale. It's hard to articulate the tone metamorphosis the show went through, but I guess the way I'd put it is that where the early seasons tried to make you laugh, the later seasons tried to make you think.
Egress. Egress. What's egress mean?
Exit.
Egress means exit!
The Hall of Egress. Now this is an iconic one. It begins with Finn and Jake checking out an odd cave dungeon. When Finn goes on ahead, he activates a pressure plate which separates him from Jake and traps him inside with no way out. Well, technically there isn't no way out, there is a way. It'll just take forever to get there. Here's a neat detail. Before Finn even enters the dungeon, he remarks on how it's pretty close to the Dungeon Train, a callback to the season 5 episode of the same name. What was special about that place is that it was a train that ran forever and likewise served as a trap for adventurers, luring them in with the promise of combat and loot, thus compelling them to never leave, which is what almost happened to Finn. And the fact that the OG Infinity Train is on the way to the Hall of Egress is a terrible omen, since the Hall too is an adventurer's trap. After Finn gets locked inside, he continues forward until he finds a special door labeled Egress, which Finn surmises is the exit. Only the door won't open and it's made of pretty sturdy stuff that Finn can't break through. Ready to give up, Finn closes his eyes as he falls against the door in defeat, only to seemingly pass through the door, and when he opens his eyes again, everything is back to normal. This is the main gimmick of Egress. In order to pass through the door, you have to keep your eyes closed, but if you open them before you find the exit, you go back to the beginning. Think of it like a video game. Whenever Finn opens his eyes, he fails the game and has to restart. Needless to say, this is a problem that cannot be solved with rippling biceps, but with rippling brainceps.
That means smarts.
The entirety of Egress is designed to mess with you. Past the door is a maze, complete with spike traps and even landmarks designed to lead you to said traps. And you can't just memorize the layout either, because it shuffles on each attempt. The way Finn eventually solves this is by going in random style and just brute forcing his way through the maze. Cause don't you know, the only way to beat a game you can't win is to not play. It could go deeper, too. Like, maybe the traps materialize on a whim in order to throw you off your game, which is why just not thinking about anything is what allows Finn to make it through to the exit.
Where are you, buddy? Jake!
Or not. Now this is where it gets serious. After making it through the maze, Finn is able to exit the cave and meet up with Jake, only despite being quote-unquote out, if he opens his eyes, he will still be sent back to the start. And this ain't no King Worm dream either. Everything looks exactly how it's supposed to, and even Jake remains completely in character. And that is such a crazy turn that now Finn has to deal with a version of the entire world that's actually just a part of Egress, and still has a ways to go to make his exit.
It is such a fake out. You think you made it out, but then it turns out that outside is just another room inside the maze. It kind of reminds me of... Whoa. Well, that takes me back.
Are you all familiar with the creepypasta No End House? In short, it's a story about someone going through a special house with 9 different rooms, and if they reach the end, they receive a prize. It starts off relatively tame, but as it continues, the various rooms get stranger and more disturbing. At a certain point, the narrator reaches a door labeled 7, and is astounded and relieved to find that it leads outside, having had enough of the house's chicanery so far. They make it all the way back to what is unmistakably their own home, but something is... off. Eventually, the horrifying realization comes crawling in when in their house they find a door labeled 8. They did an egress. They were still in the No End House. This place somehow manifested a perfect recreation of the narrator's own home to lull them into a false sense of security, only to then slam them with the truth. And the Hall of Egress is no different, only here the door labeled 8 is very hard to find. To give you a sense of how convincing this reality is, Finn spends months in this fake world, his eyes closed all that time, waiting for something to be different. And in the first episode of Elements, right at the start, it's confirmed that Finn may have even spent years trapped in that false world. And as one last trick from Egress, the other characters are mysteriously compelled to force Finn to open his eyes and send him back to the beginning, which has happened dozens of times. So eventually, Finn realizes that though Jake is his best buddy and means well, he can't help him on this particular adventure, so he runs off alone. There's a great bit during this section where Finn gets his shirt caught in a log and leaves a thread trail, which mirrors 2 moments from earlier in the episode. In the first example, Finn intentionally tears his shirt and uses the thread to avoid getting lost, but he takes a tumble and the thread snaps. In the second one, he finds the thread in the maze and uses it to find its way, but is led to a trap. And in the third example, he deduces that the thread could lead people straight to him so he can force his eyes open and undo all his progress. Crap. In each case, the thread trail leads to the dungeon getting the better of Finn, but in the third example, Finn finally sees through it and declares, no more egress. From then on, he continues wandering the world as a blind nomad until by some miracle he happens to walk into another version of the Hall of Egress, only this one is out in the desert. Now, I have no way to confirm this, but I believe that just like how the maze shuffles upon every attempt, the location of the second egress dungeon probably also randomly changes too. Call it a theory, but it just seems in character to me. This is a really nasty roguelike that Finn is playing through. After making it to the final room, Finn identifies the door as the same one as from the Hall of Egress, only whereas that door he passed right through with his eyes closed, this one his eyes are closed and is completely solid.
Something's different.
Whoa, Finn just entered spectator mode. But anyway, wow, what a journey. The Hall of Egress is an effective episode because of how it puts Finn in such an intimidating situation, and you're right there with him for every step of the journey as he attempts to solve it. And when Finn finally figures it out, he runs straight through the maze, so excited to at last be at the end of this waking nightmare. And so when Finn pops his head out of the ground with his eyes wide and full of joy, the feeling is incredible.
Whoa! That must have been some cave.
No comment.
So, moral of the story, always keep an eye out for pressure plates to avoid getting soft-locked.
Please stop, or you'll undo all that you've been through.
Ah, Season 1, the old days. Back when the stories were simple and the characters fun. Remember when the Ice King was a reoccurring villain instead of one of Finn's buddies? Or remember when Marceline was, like, a massive troll? Hey guys, remember like 20 minutes ago when Simo appeared? Good times. All of the characters got noticeably more chill as they were fleshed out in the later seasons, leading them to some of their most interesting appearances. So going back to Season 1... The best episode from Season 1 is... Oh hey, what's this over here?
Cadebra, it's all their fault!
It's like you're trying to screw up.
Please, I'm in a lot of trouble.
Hey, what? This is Distant Lands, a different show. This shouldn't count. It's not an episode from season 1. No. See, look, season 1, Adventure Time. Get off my back. Anyway, Adventure Time Distant Lands was a series of 4 extended special episodes serving as an epilogue of sorts for Adventure Time. And the final episode of the 4 was Wizard City.
Wizard City.
Wizard City.
Wizard City.
Starring PV's personal bus assistant, Peppermint Butler, who, as we all know, is a notorious dark wizard, but keeps it a secret for the most part. But after getting a dose of Gumball's Dum-Dum juice, Peps loses all of his dark magic know-how, so he goes to Wizard City to attend wizard school to become a powerful wizard again. I mean, for the first time, ever.
I'm a baby.
The catch is that dark magic and even Peppermint Butler himself is banned from Wizard City. So Peps has to continue to hide his intentions and even his identity, going under the alias of Peppermint. Which, I mean, isn't that dumb of a name, considering you also have characters like Cinnamon Bun, Mr. Cupcake, and Root Beer Guy. The meat of the episode takes place at the Wizard School, where we see the return of characters such as Bufo, Brain Wizard, Shoes Goose, Life-Giving Magus, and Ron James!
You okay, Clancy? I'm fucking fine, Bryce. Okay, bye.
Having Peps as a star for this episode is interesting because, by all accounts, this isn't the Peppermint Butler we know from Adventure Time. No, he appears in the form of a curse that Peps cast on himself as a backup plan, just in case anything happened to him. And so whenever Peppermint is going through a rough patch, the ghost of his past self is able to come out to offer him words of encouragement. Alongside Pep, we also follow Cadebra, who ends up being Pep's bunkmate and only friend at school. I remember when I first saw Cadebra, I thought to myself, oh, is that Abracadaniel's Abracadaughter? But then it was revealed that she was actually his niece, and I was like, that makes sense. Poor Abracadee could never get some. Anyway, Cadebra, she's cool. She wants to be a magician instead of a wizard. Blasphemy! The dynamic between Peps and Cadebs is what makes this episode so strong. Pep is very business-oriented. He wants to ace all of his classes and show everyone what he's made of, whereas Cadebra just wants to have fun and be herself. Peps constantly comes face-to-face with failure on his road to wizardly greatness, despite how hard he's trying. And so seeing Cadebra, who doesn't try at all or take anything seriously, rightfully kinda pisses him off, even though she means well. And not helping things further is Spader, this guy who got into Gryffindor and does everything perfectly, which he constantly rubs in Pep's face. Spader is basically what Little Peppermint has been told he's supposed to be, a master of magic and the talk of the town. And in a way, aiming so high is what leads to Pep's series of failures. He tries to do a flashy spell for his entrance exam, but it gets out of hand and he's assigned to Hufflepuff like a scrub. In each of his classes, he's either unable to or moderately unsuccessful in performing any of the spells his instructors ask him to do, and in one instance, Peps actually seems to succeed and is treated like the next Spader, only for it to all literally blow up in his face.
Back of the class.
And after each miss, Peps then has to deal with beratement from his teachers, Spader, or even the Butler guys. And yet, despite all that, from disappointing himself to disappointing his peers and mentors, there's Cadebra, telling him it's all no big deal.
How am I supposed to achieve greatness with everyone against me? It's like they want me to fail.
Well, I'm not against you.
There's a great moment halfway through the episode where, due to plot stuff, Spader goes missing, and because Peps is worried he'll get blamed for his disappearance, he and Cadebs try a location spell to find him. At first, due to his repeated failure and fresh off of a really bad one, Peps doesn't think it's going to work, but then is shocked when it does. And for a moment, he's so excited. Finally, he's getting somewhere on this road to magic supremacy. But then, of course, keeping in line with his other failures, the spell gets out of hand and blows up in his face again. Another seemingly successful spell that turned out to be too good to be true. As Pep fails throughout the day, you can see every mistake and misstep begin to stack up and really weigh on the little guy. And at the end of it all is the ghost of Peppermint Past over here, who plays the role of the strict parent trying to groom their child for success. Because while he may think that this discipline is meant to boost little Pep into becoming a better wizard, instead all it does is make him feel as though he'll never, ever be good enough.
Do you ever feel like no matter how hard you try, you're still nothing but a disappointment, and everyone, even your mentors, want you to fail?
Like I said earlier, Peppermint is not quite the same character as Peppermint Butler. Like a pale imitation. He's torn between fulfilling his destiny like he thinks he's meant to do, or to just do his own thing like Cadebra did. Which plays into the climax of the episode, where the both of them are brought to the tomb of Conconteppi, and Peps is offered a chalice of ichor that, if consumed, will grant him the greatness that he so desires. On one side, great power like the devil on his shoulder wants, but on the other side, the angel on his shoulder, Cadebra, trying to talk Pep out of it by telling him that he can be powerful in his own way, that he doesn't need to be the next Peppermint Butler, and instead he could just be the first himself. And so Peps, having been given this ultimatum, decides to drink the ichor! Hell yeah! Fuck all of you assholes! Boom! Woo! Kill them all!
Yes! More brakes!
But uh-oh, now Conconteppi is starting his rampage on Cadebra, who in a miraculous display of character uses stage magic to trick the pepper monster and make him cough up the ichor, as well as an old friend.
Pep?
Momo, you were this close to recreating me! Your destiny!
You're not my destiny! You're my...
Stop!
Pass!
Oh no!
Listen, I still want to be a powerful wizard jerk. Just not him.
In summary, I really enjoy the angle of Pep's being literally haunted by his dark past and having to hide his infamy from his peers. It's like something I would come up with. I never thought I'd relate so much to Peppermint Butler of all characters, but the wizards at the writing room found a way. Cadebra is a great character too, an endless well of positivity to contrast with Pep's more prickly demeanor, and in general represents how what Peppermint wants isn't the same as what he needs. As when the whole world is against you, all you really need is at least one person to have your back and help you towards your goal. Now before we get to our closing act, let's give some love to the runners-up and discuss some honorable mentions. Wizard from Season 1. Hey, this isn't Wizard City. This is one of the funnier Season 1 episodes where Finn and Jake are brought to a wizard school led by Bufo in his first appearance. And in exchange for powers, they have to do weird meaningless tasks like eat brooms and touch grapes. Ew. And then at the end it's revealed that the whole thing is a con so Finn can use his new power to stop an asteroid from hitting the temple for the rest of his life. Boy, if only he didn't get greedy and just quit while he was ahead like Jake did, then he'd still have all those sick powers.
Awaken!
Reflect.
Hey, I'm alive. What's that up there? Oh no!
The Creeps from Season 3. This is a great spooky episode, but I also love it because of a really funny hidden joke. You see, the plot is that the characters are mysteriously invited to a haunted house, but it turns out to just be a prank by Finn, so Jake puts together a counter prank to one-up him. And the funny part is, I don't think Clumpy Space Princess was in on any of it. Jake got Princess Bubblegum and Lady Rainicorn in on his plan, Finn had Beemo and Cinnamon Bun in on his plan, and poor LSP was probably left completely in the dark by everybody. Yeah, Jake prepared that painting in advance, just like he prepared the wax decoy Bubblegum and the fake corpses of Beemo and Cinnamon Bun, but whereas PB was acting scared and playing along, the moment for seeing the reveal of the painting, I bet LSP was genuinely terrified. And we thought Jake was stepping over the line by asking about LSP's love life. Oh yeah, and the part where Finn starts hallucinating repressed memories as his fear gets the better of him is a great creepy segment.
It kinda makes me wonder what I would see if I were in the same situation. Heh.
I Remember You from Season 4. What hasn't been said? This episode is a fan favorite, and unfortunately I must thusly exclude it from the list for being so popular. Though to be completely fair, it might not have made the list anyway, because most of the good stuff is only in the last 4 minutes, and the rest is kind of just filler. Regardless, this is the episode that really sells the tragedy of the Ice King. The season prior brought up the idea that he was once normal before losing his marbles, but this episode adds the dimension of how that affected the people he knew, in this case, Marceline. He shows up to her house, and at first, she's apprehensive to his being there, but as the episode continues and we start to get into the songs, that apprehension turns into genuine sorrow as Marcy tries to remind old Simon of his past, but attempt after attempt, he just doesn't get it. It parallels real-life horrors like Alzheimer's and seeing someone you know just sort of slip away from sanity with there being nothing you can do about it. And it's extra sad considering Simon and Marcy from Season 5, which may as well be another honorable mention, because why not? Which allows us to see what Simon was like before losing it all the way. He was kind and caring, he was funny and good with children, he was always looking out for Marceline and makes her well-being his top priority. It says a lot that the times during the episode that Marceline is the most scared is when Simon puts on the crown and starts talking crazy. Because truly, losing your only friend in a messed up world is leagues more terrifying than that which goes bump in the night. Speaking of which, Stakes from Season 7. It would be cheating to put an entire miniseries on the list, even by my standards. Regardless, Stakes earns its mark as my favorite miniseries of the 3. Back when I was burned down the show because of Flame Princess, no pun intended, I sort of forgot about it for a while. At least that wasn't until I happened to see Stakes on Demand, which renewed my love for the series. The story centers around Marceline, who with the help of Princess Bubblegum has her vampirism removed, which incidentally revives 5 other vampires, each of whom have one of Marceline's powers. And so Marcy must stake them one by one to regain her abilities and undo what she has wrought unto Ooh. Each of the 5 antagonists are a lot of fun in their own way, and also pay homage to the origin of vampires, which are partially a commentary on the societal elite, draining the poor of their essence and constantly needing to feed their own sexual depravity. I only realized this recently, but the scene where the Vampire King turns Marcy into a vampire has some pretty heavy rape subtext. Just like how Ice King's crown serves as a constant reminder to others of his deteriorated mental state, Marceline's bite mark is a constant reminder to herself that she was never the same after being pinned down by that predatory elite. Also, this opening scene where Marceline gets caught in the sun is dumb. You know, Marceline, you really only have yourself to blame for this. Your outfits usually have the shade built into them, but this time you got cocky. Also, you could have grabbed the umbrella with your leg, fool. Yeah, get out of here. Together again, from distant lands. Man, what a trip. It is such a ride seeing Finn and Jake reunite after both dying so they could go and beat up New Death. And when it was revealed that New Death was actually being controlled by the Hand of the Lich, it was such a Wait. It's been so long, a lot of you probably don't remember who the Lich is. Okay, so quick history of the Lich. The Lich was a bad guy, so Billy had to go and beat him up. But then a snail broke him out of his prison, so Finn had to go and beat him up. But then the Lich possessed the body of Princess Bubblegum and turned into a giant monster, so Ice King had to go and beat her up. This caused the Lich to possess a snail, so the Lich was a snail now. But then the snail killed Billy, so then the Lich was Billy now. But then he got stuck in Prismo's time room, waited to kill Prismo so he could be sent to cosmic jail where he would come into contact with the Guardian's magic healing blow, which turned him into Sweet Pea.
Hello!
Meanwhile, Finn, after wishing for a world without the Lich, is sent to an alternate timeline where the Lich doesn't exist, except that he does, and becomes Jake. So Finn, with Ice King's powers, and Jake the Lich make a portal to other dimensions, but the normal Finn and Jake intercept this plan and beat up the Lich, except they screw up and the Lich's hand falls into the portal, reaching every dimension. So now there are 2 Liches. And Lich seeks out Sweet Pea to awaken his inner Lich, but he fails, and Sweet Pea beats him up. So then, after finally dying for real this time, the Lich befriends the Son of Death and manipulates him into killing Current Death to become New Death with the Lich as his right-hand man. Pun intended. But then finally, Finn and Jake, after having died themselves, give New Death the axe, and Jake beats up the Lich, tossing him into the horizon. Alright, did you get all that?
Enhance! Make it stop!
Anyway, Together Again is pretty good. A worthy end for these 2 beloved characters. So now, with all that said and done, let's do some dishonorable mentions, because why not? It'll add some context. Donnie from Season 1. Donnie is a weird one. It's about Finn and Jake coming across a village of house people being harassed by the titular Donnie. So they take Donnie back to their house to reform him, but by doing so, enable a pack of Y-Wolves to attack the houses instead, for only Donnie's presence was keeping them at bay before. What makes this strange is that in another Season 1 episode, his hero, we are introduced to Billy, Finn's idol, who says that fighting monsters is pointless because fighting evil just opens the door for more evil to take its place. And the episode ends with Finn and Jake convincing Billy that he was wrong, and fighting evil isn't pointless after all. But on the other hand, Donnie seems to prove that Billy was actually right. First, Donnie is a threat, and by taking him out, he's just replaced by a different threat like Billy said. And the episode ends with them reintroducing Donnie to the house village, so in total, 0 progress was made in making these house people's lives better. There isn't even any kind of compromise. Finn and Jake could have just ignored Donnie, and everything would have been the same. Weird. Just odd. Burning Low from Season 4. Okay, as I said, the stuff with Flame Princess is what largely turned me away from the show back when it was still airing. I hate it when things are awkward, and Finn is not exactly what I'd call smooth with the ladies. And this episode is the height of the romance and the awkwardness and the misunderstandings. Oh my god, it's so hard to watch! Because you see, the whole reason Finn started dating FP is because he had a crush on Bubblegum, but she's too old for Finn, whereas Flame Princess is just his age. And in this episode, PB learns about Finn's relationship with Flame Princess and is upset about it. And the whole episode makes it seem like PB might actually like Finn back, which isn't the case, and we get the worst of characters not communicating with each other properly, getting mad because of said misunderstanding, and it is painful. Finn gets dumped by Flame Princess a season later, and his character doesn't quite recover from that until the mountain in Season 6, and it isn't completely resolved until Bun Bun in Season 8. Until then, a lot of episodes just had a sub-narrative of Finn carrying this emotional baggage with him, like Dungeon Train for example, and the possibility of dealing with more awkward Finn was more than I could handle, so I bailed. Well, on the bright side, at least things got better afterwards. Bad Little Boy from Season 5. I know a lot of people really do not care for the Fiona and Cake episodes in general since the character designs are kind of, bad? The less said, the better. And the names are even worse. Instead of Jake, it's Cake. Instead of Finn, it's Fiona, with 2 N's. And instead of Marceline, it's Marshall Lee. Oh, that is such a stretch. I sure hope Ice King got fired for that one. Take your licks. This episode is also odd in that instead of Ice King telling the main story, it's Marceline, who is not bringing her A-game. And because a lot of time is spent with the framing device plus filler, the actual episode is closer to 7 minutes than 11 minutes. It's just a whole lot of nothing happening. Honestly, the fan animation that predates this episode was better. Water Park Prank from Season 6. what do I need to say? Adventure Time has had many episodes headed by guest animators over the years, such as Dave O'Reilly, Small Boo, Masaki Uasa, Small Boo again, and Kirsten Lepore, but this episode, done by David Ferguson, just sticks out. I don't want to call this episode ugly, just visually unappealing to the degree of being very unpopular among fans. With the other guest animated episodes, the style they each went for was a mix of Adventure Time and their own style, so the show was still recognizable, but with an added artist flavor. Whereas here, the style is about as far away from the Adventure Time style as it gets, which may be why a lot of fans were repulsed by it. Well, then it's a good thing they never brought this art style back. Wait. BMO from Distant Lands. Distant Lands only had 4 episodes, and one of them was wasted on BMO doing a side quest in space with a bunch of characters we'd never seen before or since. What was cool about Distant Lands was how it tied up certain loose ends from the show, like PB and Marcy's relationship or Finn and Jake's deaths. At the time, when this was the only episode available, I wouldn't blame you if you thought that Distant Lands was just going to be the BMO show. The episode doesn't tie up any loose ends, it does nothing, since BMO's the only returning character and isn't allowed to develop, as this is also the only prequel episode. It kinda reflects the problem that the show caught in the later seasons. There is way too much BMO. As much as I say the series didn't get worse as it continued, BMO did become pretty flanderized as the seasons went on. Gradually, BMO went from being Finn and Jake's kind friend to being like their weird kid, which contradicts BMO's whole purpose as a being that's supposed to give joy to others. Yet in the later seasons, in this episode, instead it's BMO who needs to be cuddled, and often makes situations worse. Come on, man, you're supposed to be more and stuff. Now let me clarify that I like BMO just fine, but a pound of sugar will kill anyone, you know what I'm saying? Just a pinch, please. We could have had an episode about Shermie and Beth being evicted from Marceline's house or something, but nah. Dude, you're being salty. Yeah, you're right. Let's wrap things up. BMO, forget everything I just said.
Okay. Please stop, or you'll undo all that you've been through. Ooh, just hug, and it's agreed. Your love will not delete.
Alright, by process of elimination, you have already figured out that my number 1 is from Season 8. And it's not Islands, so that narrows it down even further. Season 8 probably is my favorite season anyway, with a lot of great comedic and introspective episodes. And by far, the most introspective of the bunch, the most memorable episode from this season is our number 1 spot. So now, finally, without further ado, let's all give a warm welcome to...
The winner is a very special someone who I just met, last name Hole. She'll take home this handmade potato chip bag crown.
The Musical, the winner of tonight's Battle of the Episodes. The plot revolves around Finn, who's been going through a bit of a rough patch ever since the Finn sword was damaged a few episodes earlier. The sword first debuted in the episode Is That You? From Season 6, where due to time shenanigans, an alternate version of Finn was transformed into the sword. And then later in Season 8, the sword will be merged with Finn's grass sword to create Finn's grass doppelganger, Fern, which would seriously mess him up again later. But as for now, the sword is broken and Finn blames himself for it happening. BMO and Jake try to cheer him up, with waffles no less, but are unable to, and so Princess Bubblegum recommends that Jake put into action Plan C. Oh, it's wholesome. It's satisfactory. It's lemon scented. This Plan C can't possibly fail.
Hello?
What's Plan C again? Something about music?
So the next day, Finn is about to continue his episode of Self-Pity, now airing on Monday nights, when he hears a sound coming from the horizon. He arrives at the Candy Kingdom, not knowing what's going on, and Jake tells him it's the Battle of the Bands, with PB as the host, Beemo on the soundboard, Ice King as security, and him as the celebrity guest judge. The entire premise of the episode going forward is PB and Jay putting on their show sandwich just to make Finn feel better, and it is incredibly sweet. And peanut buttery. Finn has done so much for not only his best bro and the princess, but also so many other people that this whole event almost feels like they're repaying him for his heroism and when he needs it most. In terms of stakes, the musical may well be the most relaxed episode in the entire series. No monsters, no big fights, no risk of something bad happening, nothing. And in that way, the musical feels like the sister episode to Abstract, only with Finn instead of Jake, working through some stuff he's having trouble dealing with on his own. The Battle of the Bands opens with Flame Princess and Neptune doing an original rap, and they have Susan doing the pre-show, but as you may expect, I want to talk about the part where Marceline takes the stage. Instead of writing an original song for the competition, Marceline instead sings Francis Forever, which is a real song that was licensed for the episode. The song can have a number of different interpretations as to its meaning, but the one I like that applies to this episode is it being about the loss of a loved one, or in this case, the pseudo-death of the Finn sword. Once upon a time, Finn could look into the Finn sword for guidance, and it could look back, but ever since it was shattered, the connection has been lost, hence the final lines of the chorus. You could also interpret the lines as being from Marceline's perspective, and being related to her connection to the Ice King, who due to his loss of sanity doesn't see Marceline the way he used to. Either way, way, it's an emotionally powerful song and it doesn't take an expert to see that Finn relates to it. I'd also like to note that Marcy is LSP and Death as part of her band when performing this song, and that's relevant because, as a bit of a depressing fact, this would also be the last episode where the character Death would appear in the show, before the passing of his voice actor, Miguel Ferrer, 6 months after this episode aired. Oddly enough, Death was actually introduced with the Battle of the Band style competition way back in Season 2, so it seems only fitting that he would go out rocking as well. During the performance of Francis Forever, Marceline drops a guitar pick and refuses to continue the song, but Finn still hears music and is about to announce the winner when he's surprised to find out Marceline has stopped playing. So he gets up from his chair to find out where the song is coming from, but eventually wanders away from the show entirely, with Jake and Lady tagging along. Then after walking for a bit, they make it to the source of the song, the titular musical. There's a clever bit when they arrive. Because Finn is so excited to find the source of the song, he starts running full speed ahead and almost falls into the hole, but luckily Jake was there to save him, otherwise he might have died. Cause like in the opening, when you've messed up or down in the dumps in general, just stewing your emotions alone won't do any good. They'll fester, you see. And good friends and people who care about you, like Jake, can pull you out of that depression. Sometimes literally. This is further emphasized when the musical is introduced proper. She explains that the majority of people are unable to hear her song, only able to be heard by the childish or the sorrowful, like Finn. And so for the majority of her existence, the whole sings with herself all alone, with no one around to offer her kindness like Finn has received.
You know what? I envy you. I've always wanted to be heard by everyone. That's what friends are, right? Just people to observe you. People to enjoy your song.
Hey, bud.
When the episode started, Finn was just wallowing in his own failure after losing the equivalent of a friend, but the Battle of the Bands reminds him that he has a lot of friends who are there for him. And after meeting the musical, who's been alone for centuries, he learns to appreciate what he has instead of lamenting what he's lost. Because if you live your life beating yourself up about every mistake you've ever made, you'll only make yourself miserable.
Hey, it's okay. People make mistakes. It's all part of growing up, and you never really stop growing.
But that's not the end of it, because the musical rabbit hole goes even deeper. You see, the musical is voiced by Ashley Erickson from the band Lake, who also composed Adventure Time's end credits song, which you may have heard.
Come along with me.
Lake also made No Wonder I, which is the song that Beamo plays during Shh from Season 5, as another intentional reference.
No wonder I feel 1,000 petals. I'm walking by.
And so when the musical says she's been singing since the very beginning of Ooh, she's actually referring to the end credits song, which has been a part of the show ever since episode 1 up until the finale. Oh, and speaking of which, allow me to go on a tangent here. There's an odd phenomenon between Adventure Time episodes where it seems like certain episodes exist just so a one-off character can make a second appearance. Such as The Great Birdman, where Zergiok, the Goblin King, makes his return after the Silent King from 3 seasons earlier. Or Lady and Peebles, where Ricardio appears again. And come along with me, the finale of the show just so happens to be the second appearance of the musical. After Gold is banished, Fern wilts away completely, leaving behind a little sword seed, which Finn and Jake plant at the site of their old treehouse, where it grows into a brand new tree with a new sword. Finn and Jake, after experiencing the heavy losses of Fern and the treehouse respectively, are now both able to hear the musical sing, and she tells them she has a new song that she would like to perform for them. And what song does she play?
Come along with me.
You see, the reason the finale is called Come Along With Me is because that's the song that plays during the end of nearly every episode of the series. So it's only right that now it will be played at the end of the series itself, only this time in full. The musical. It all comes back to the musical. What at first glance looks like an ordinary episode turns out to actually be the beating heart of the entire series. Which is why, in the final scene of the series, Shermie and Beth climb the tree that sprung from Fern's seed and lift up the fully repaired Finn sword, showing that, no matter the time, the adventure continues.
Living so merrily.
Nothing like a good message and a good song to really wrap you up in a good mood. Now, how do we get back?
Deja vu.
Lemons! Huh? Oh! Yo, pathetic!
Needed anyone to stand by my side. Needed anyone to get by. No room for you on the right side. Pedal to the metal, then I'll wave you goodbye. Goodbye. No room for you on the right side. Pedal to the metal, then I'll wave you goodbye. Goodbye.
fun, I guess.